Warning, this video contains spoilers and opinions, but it also contains delicious cakes, so priorities. If you've been a longtime fan of Final Fantasy, you would know that Final Fantasy X, for some people, was the end of an era. In fact, Final Fantasy X was called the last great Final Fantasy for at least a decade. Listen, I'm gonna level with you, I was totally one of those people up until recently. And this is coming from someone who actually really loved Final Fantasy XIII. When I say Final Fantasy X is my favorite Final Fantasy, I'm a little biased. This game holds a special place in my heart because it's the first game I ever beat before my big brother. Now, I know that might not sound like much, but little sisters everywhere know why this is so vindicating. Yuna and Tidus were 12-year-old me's first introduction to a tragic romance that wasn't Romeo and Juliet. Everything in this game is there for a reason, and it has a history. You talk to Machen, and he tells you why it's there. Being a kid, living in the Bible Belt in the Bush era, this game's religious conspiracy angle had parents demanding it get pulled from the shelves. It caused more of a stir than Harry Potter, and everyone knows what happened with Harry Potter in the early 2000s. Listen, this game was a seismic introduction to Japanese role-playing games, and it left me with pretty high standards. That is until... yeah, that's a video for another day. While I fell in love with the game as I played it, what struck me first and the most about Final Fantasy X were its colors. For a PlayStation 2 game, it was unbelievable, at least by my standards, coming from someone who never had an original PlayStation or a GameCube. So in making this Tidus and Yuna wedding cake, I took some of its most memorable scenes and most memorable promotional art and came up with this. I went with something much simpler than my Final Fantasy XV cake. Since Yuna and Tidus reunite in Besaid, I don't see them A, inviting a lot of people, or B, using any fondant covering. So yep, you heard right, this cake is almost all buttercream, including the sphere, because if you've ever played Final Fantasy X, spheres are important. Alrighty, confession time. I actually used cake mix to make this cake. I doctor cake mix all the time, especially if the humidity in the air doesn't quite agree with the ingredients I'm using. In this case, it was my eggs, and since I so rarely use sphere pans, I really wanted to make sure everything bakes evenly. So, the solution? Cake mix. It takes 4 boxes of French vanilla cake mix to make coconut buttermilk cake. Of course, you'll need coconut extract, almond extract, and buttermilk to make this cake. No substitutions. After everything is baked and cooled, I level and tort all my cakes. Then, I fill them with lemon coconut buttercream. But I don't stop there. I also use lemon curd, which is thinner than buttercream, so I have to find some way to keep it from oozing out the sides. The solution? A thin layer of buttercream and a buttercream barrier around the edge of the cake. I spread a generous helping of lemon curd, then pipe the buttercream on top. I give it a good leveling, then I do the same for every layer. Remember when I complained about the humidity before? Well, after I gave the cake a crumb coat, I had to freeze it, just to make sure the lemon curd could hold its structure. With the humidity's stranglehold on my kitchen, the sphere cakes didn't rise as much as I wanted them to, so the sphere halves didn't match up, so I had to do a little bit of carving. But after that, I finally was able to give it a decent crumb coat, and I had to freeze that too, just in case. Before I break out the colored buttercream, I give both cakes an uncolored second coat of buttercream. Then, I use the turquoise of Tidus' sword, the purple and pink of Yuna's clothes, and the yellow of Tidus' everything else, and sort of spread it intermittently around the cake. To be honest, there's really no reasoning to where I put the frosting, I just wanted it to look pretty. And then, magic happens. The sphere cake gets the same treatment, but I have to be a little more discerning. Everything has to go the exact same way, which is harder than it sounds on a sphere cake. So I used various shades of blue and green, and I made sure all the blending goes counterclockwise. Now, some people are masters of the spatula, but I find that it's best to freeze a sphere cake and then use damp fingers to sort of smooth down any bumps and puckles in the frosting. Remember when I said this cake was almost all buttercream? Well, I did make a few fondant decorations. I wanted to make some fireflies, but then I realized in the context of the game that would probably be just a little bit morbid. So I made some of the branches for the macadamia trees for the famous kiss scene, or in some cases, infamous. and I made some matching flowers of various sizes with some plunger cutters. Using a mix of pink, green, silver, and blue luster dust, I dusted every single decoration individually. Assembling this cake only takes one dowel through the center of the bottom tier, because this sphere is not going to stay unless it has a little bit of incentive. Once I get that situated, I use some two-tone buttercream and a round piping tip to pipe a top and bottom border. Lastly, I add the shiny branch embellishments and flowers, and I couldn't resist adding one more little island flower. Listen, I may be biased toward Final Fantasy X, but I'm serious when I say that it's probably one of the best introductions to JRPGs that I could ask for, except maybe Final Fantasy VII or Tales of Phantasia. With its deep story and world building, I fell in love with it, and it's a cherished part of my otherwise awful middle school days. I know my schedule is still a little bit shaky, but I'm having a hard time getting a decent schedule lined up. I'm hoping to get back to weekly videos and maybe bi-weekly videos, if I can find the time. For my next video, we have Tiana and Naveen, and I need suggestions still for couples, but I'm also adding movies too, so please like, comment, and subscribe. Show me and each other some love, everybody. As always, stay weird and happy eating.